Thank you so much, Serena, and hello, welcome to today's Zoom phone user training. My name is Janice, and I work on the customer success team here at Zoom. The purpose of today's training is really just to provide you all the tools that you need to be successful with Zoom phone and also answer any and all questions you have about Zoom phone. Today, I'm going to cover 3 different ways to access Zoom Phone, starting with the web portal. I'll show you where you can configure some of your settings and set up your voicemail. Next, we're going to jump into the Zoom desktop client, also known as the desktop app, where you can place and actually answer your calls. And then we'll review the Zoom mobile app. So as Serena mentioned, I will stop and pause and feel free to open it up for questions along the way. So feel free to make it as interactive as you'd like. All right, so let's start with the Zoom web portal, which can be accessed by launching an internet browser like Google Chrome. UCLA has set up what we call a vanity URL, which makes accessing your Zoom web portal easy by going to ucla.zoom.us. You're going to log in by using your official UCLA email, which will then log you in via SSO, which is single sign-on. After logging into the Zoom web portal, over to the left, you'll see tabs for your profile, meetings. Today, we're here to talk about Zoom Phone, so let's review the Phone tab. Once you click on the Phone tab, you're going to land on Settings, that sub-tab. Under Settings, you're going to see things like the company number, which displays the main company number and your extension. You're going to see emergency address. This is the address provided to first responders when dialing an emergency number. So just make sure that that address is correct. Outbound caller ID. You can select the default caller ID number here. You can also change your caller ID number kind of on the fly before making a call. And I'm going to show you where you can do that in the desktop client and in the mobile app in just a little bit. You're going to see the country, select the country and the country code for outbound calling. You'll also see area code, right? So you can click edit here to change that area code. This is used for local calls. So when you dial a number without an area code, Zoom Phone will use this area code that you enter here. And then at the bottom of my screenshot, you will see call handling. Let's talk about call handling. So call handling allows you to customize your call settings to determine how calls are handled. So think of it that way, right? So how calls are routed during business hours, during closed hours, or holiday hours. So for example, you can customize settings so that during business hours, you receive calls on the Zoom desktop client, which we'll go to in a few minutes, or on your mobile app. But during closed hours, all those calls might go straight to your voicemail. So again, you determine how these calls are routed during these times. So the first section you're going to see is business hours. Business hours are exactly what they sound like. They're times when you can answer calls, when you're available. You can set business hours to span past 11:30 if you worked night shifts. You can also set business hours in increments of 10 minutes, and you would just simply do that by manually entering the time. So for example, you could set 11:10 if you had to. After setting the business hours, you can also customize how those inbound calls are routed during those hours. And that's all done under call handling. So again, business hours, those are the hours of the day where you are available. Call handling is how you handle those calls. So under call handling, you're going to see a toggle where you can turn on, the appropriate toggle according to where you want to receive your phone calls. You can also move the toggle to rearrange the order. So as an example, I might say, I want it to ring my desktop app, right? Or I don't want it to ring my mobile app. I want it to ring another device. So you can customize how these calls are routed during those business hours. Below that, you're going to see call handling ring mode. So this pertains to the ring. So if you were to select simultaneously in the maximum wait time box, you would then select the arrow to select the maximum wait time before the call is handled. So when a call is not answered, what is the ring time simultaneously? If you were to select sequentially in the ring time duration for each device, that is going to ring one at a time. So you would select what you want to ring first and then the next one. Before I go a little bit further, when you're busy and on another call, any questions about that? About call handling? I know there's a lot of stuff going on this screen, and until you actually click in and drop down, I think you'll get the feel of the flow, but just wanted to make sure there weren't any outstanding questions about this before I move on to when I'm busy and I'm on another call. How is that call handled?
And I just want to let folks know too that if you have the Zoom app on your desktop, these are actually things that you could preset in advance to Monday's go live. So feel free to use today's session to go into your Zoom app and check out some of the things that Janice is speaking to. The only thing that won't be available to you is full functionality when you're calling and receiving calls, because obviously your calls are still going into your physical phone and we haven't cut over quite yet. So just FYI, the things that she's covered up to this point are things that you can go ahead and check out.
Perfect. And that's why I thought it was important that everybody knows where to find their settings when they're in the web portal. So you go to your phone tab, go to the settings sub tab, and this is what we're talking through. It's almost like I'm scrolling. So just pretend I'm scrolling down the settings tab. So we talked about, how I want it to, where I want it to ring one at a time, ring them all at the same time, which I think would be crazy, but you could do that if you wanted to. So what happens when I'm busy on another call, right? So you can select how calls are handled when you're busy on another call as well. So here you're going to find options like, if I'm on another call and my phone rings, forward it to a voicemail. Or if I'm on a call and the phone rings, play a message and then disconnect. Give it a busy signal or forward it to another extension. Or I also have the ability to have set it up so that somebody else can answer my calls. And I'm going to show you where you can set that as well. So again, you're going to see lots of options of not only what happens when the phone rings during my business hours, but how it rings and what happens next. Also, as part of that, I talked about when I'm busy and on another call. Well, how about when the call's not answered, right? How about the call's not answered? Then what happens? You can select how unanswered calls are handled during business hours or closed hours as well. So another example, right? I could forward to voicemail. I could route my calls that we forwarded to voicemail. I could allow callers to reach an operator. So if that's set up, I can allow my callers just to press 0 to reach an operator or press 1 to leave a voicemail, right? So I have full control over how my calls, what happens when I don't answer a call or if I'm busy. Also below that, you're going to see voicemail greetings, and I'll talk about setting up voicemail greetings. It looks like Stace has a question. Stace, if you want to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to ask away.
Hello, it's actually Karina. I'm not
Oh,
sure why it's saying stays, but
no
it,
worries.
I have a question. So these settings that you're referring to that we can modify in the Zoom app, how is that going to work for shared lines? Will only one person have an option to modify these settings, or will they show up on both devices?
Yeah, so even if you have shared lines, you still have your own personal settings, right? And that's what we're talking about right now. These are your own personal settings. We're going to cover shared lines in just a few minutes. And if we still have questions, let me know once we get to that piece. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I mentioned voicemail greeting. So you can select a new voice greeting, and there's a couple ways that you can do this. By selecting audio, you would just add audio. I think I have a couple screenshots here for you. Then once you add audio, you can choose whether you text to speech. So basically what would happen if you selected text to speech in that box below, hello, my name is Janice. I am not available. Please leave a number, right? And then when you hit add, that will provide an audio voicemail for you that way. You can record on your computer, which is what most people do. It's almost like when you have your hand phone and you say, hi, this is Janice. Sorry, I missed your call. Same thing, except you're just speaking through your computer, right? Because Zoom phone resides on your computer, on your desktop. So if you record by computer, that's probably the most popular one. And again, just your simple voicemail recording. And then, or you could upload. So if you had a file, an audio file that you wanted, or something you wanted to play, or you could also upload a file as well, just by selecting upload at the top here. So a couple different options when you want to add your voicemail greeting. Holiday hours, we talked about business hours. Well, holiday hours, scrolling further down, we're on that same settings tab, you'll find holiday hours. And then you would just click manage to designate certain days as holidays, or it could be days that you'll be away for the holiday. So a use case could be extended days that you'll be out, right? Next to holiday list and call handling, you would just click manage, click add, and then enter a holiday name, select the date range, and then hit save to set up your holiday hours. And then scrolling down more, you're going to find other settings. So you'll find voicemail. This is where you can designate users to have access to your voicemail. By simply clicking add, you can grant users access to your voicemail. You'll see block list. These are numbers that are we blocked in the client, right? They can be blocked by the admins on your account. You would just click manage block list to add or manage some blocked numbers. And I'll show you where those numbers will show up in your client. Hold music. If you wanted hold music, just click edit to select new hold music. Or if you want to disable hold music altogether, you could do that here. You'll see audio prompt language. This is the default audio prompt language for your extension. So I did want to talk about call queues for just a minute, and also delegation, also known as assistant. So call queues allow the admins on your account to route incoming calls to a group of users. So any call queues that you are a part of will display here. So when enabled, just click view or edit to change what queues you'll receive calls from and which ones you'll not. I just realized I don't have a slide for call queues on here, but it'll say call queues. And then delegation and assistant, kind of like meetings, Zoom meetings, where you can schedule folks to set up meetings on your behalf. Call delegation provides an easy way for phone users to assign other users to handle calls on their behalf. So as an example, an executive could assign call privileges to one of their assistants, and then their assistant can make and receive calls on the executive's behalf. Just to note, if someone assigns you as delegation, you'll see the request next time you log in. So you'll be notified if someone is setting you up as a delegate. You would just hit accept. Any questions about delegation or call queues? Excellent. So we were just in the web portal. Again, it's called your web portal because you've got to go out to that web URL to get there where you find all your settings. That's where you also find your meetings and everything else. Next is the desktop client, and that's that little Zoom icon that's been downloaded on your desktop. So when you click on that little Zoom icon, you're going to see this is what the desktop client looks like, this big box. You're going to land on what we call the home screen. There's a bunch of things you can do on this home screen related to meetings. So if I wanted, I could go ahead and schedule my meeting right here. I could create a new meeting right from here. I could join a meeting. If I'm on a call and somebody wants me to join their meeting, I would just hit that join button, type in the meeting ID and join their meeting. But what is important on this page I want to talk about is the settings. So again, we talked about settings in the web portal. These are the settings on the desktop app or the desktop client. So you might hear me call it both, right? Something to note, if you want to place calls or receive Zoom phone calls, you must be logged into the desktop client because this is where your soft phone resides. To access your settings, you can either click on the right-hand corner, your profile picture. If you have your profile picture set up, you would set up your profile picture. Like for instance, Serena has her profile picture set up so that when she's not sharing her video like I am, you'll see her profile picture. And that's done in the web portal. So when we're on that web portal, looking at that phone tab to set up your profile picture, just go under the profile tab and you can upload a photo right there. And again, it's just a photo that shows instead of your name, like some of the names that you see here, the photo will show. So anyway, you can get to your settings tab by clicking on that photo, or right below that, you're going to see like this little gear icon. When you click on that gear icon, you're going to see the pop-up box, which I'm showing here on the right, with a bunch of options here for you. So I mentioned whether you want to receive queues, calls if you're in a queue, right? So if I'm in a call queue and I'm available to answer a call in that queue, you'll see that blue toggle on. For some reason, if I'm not available in that queue, I could go ahead and shut that queue off. So what I want to talk about is that little settings. So if I click on that little settings icon, the gear, another box is going to pop up. And on the left-hand side, you'll see general, video, audio. This is where you can go and set your background and filters, your profile. I just want to touch quickly on that audio one. It's the third one down on the left-hand side. So this is where you can set your microphone and speaker and test them. You can adjust your volume. I'm not going to go through all the settings here. I just wanted you to know where to find them. And under audio, this is where you would go and do that. Here, also under audio, suppress background, I love that one as well. So Zoom does a great job with background noises, suppressing background audio. You can set it, mine's on auto, but I actually have 2 new puppies, so I should set mine to high. So if you hear dogs barking in the background, Zoom would kind of suppress that. So that's great, especially if you're on a Zoom phone. That would be great for that use case as well. Under audio is the phone tab. So this is where I can find my direct number, the company number, a lot of the same settings that I showed you in the web portal can be found here. There's also a box here, just want to bring it to your attention, hide incoming calls when I'm in a meeting. So if you're on a Zoom meeting, right, and your phone rings, you can actually select this box and it'll just hide those incoming calls while you're on a meeting as well. There we go, I highlighted it. And again, that's found on the little phone tab in the settings here. I also wanted to point out local permissions. You can allow Zoom to access your location. And again, this falls under the 911, right? So emergency notifications. So again, you let us know if you want to allow us to locate you based on where you are in the event of emergency purposes only. Okay, so while still in this desktop app, that home page that we landed on, across the top, you're going to see home. This is where when we landed, was on that home. Now you're going to have this great little phone icon, and this is your new Zoom phone. This is what your phone's going to look like when you click on that phone tab. So when I click on phone over to the left, I'm going to see some sub tabs. I'm going to see my history, my voicemail, and my lines. The history is where I can see all of both missed calls, or if somebody has left me a voicemail, I'm going to find that under the voicemail tab. If I'm part of a shared line group under lines, you'll be able to see that. SMS, last I checked, you folks, it's not available at this time, SMS. But then you'll also see the keypad over to the right. So you'll see those sub tabs on the left-hand side, and that's where you're going to see your keypad over to the right. Under history, I wanted to point out, as an example, I have Jeffrey. I have a call from Jeffrey. At this point, I could do a couple things, right? I could call Jeffrey right from here, but just want to make note that you're always going to find those three little dots. Just click in those because you're going to see a bunch of additional options. So in this example, when I clicked on those three little dots, I could go ahead and lock this number if I needed to. And I think that's all I want to talk about here, but that's your keypad over here on the right. And I think I have more examples of your keypad. So we were just under history. Again, history, just want to mention this is where you'll get your missed calls or who's called you. Voicemail, right? This is where by clicking on that little voicemail tab, not only will I see that Tyler called, but I'm also going to receive his voicemail in a text format as well, so I can actually read it. So from here, I could hit that little play button, listen to Tyler's voicemail, or I could read it from here, or I could press that little icon phone and call Tyler back right from here. I could view his profile. I could copy his number if I wanted to. So I've got a couple other, I could also delete the voicemail right from here as well. And that's under the voicemail tab. Under the lines, if you have a shared line or been set up in a shared line, this is where you would see who you're sharing an additional line with. And again, right from here, I could click on Tyler, and then there's some additional information that I could also see: caller ID, main number, extension. And then I would just place the call by pressing the phone icon to either one of these folks here. I want to just show you what it looks like if I have an incoming call. So before I jump into that, any questions about that voicemail, history, or lines sub-tabs up here? Pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, just remember that those three little dots are there as well. So if you're not finding any options, make sure you click into those little dots. So when someone calls you, when you get an incoming call, Zoom Phone's going to display a call notification to help you identify that a caller is calling you. Just note that if you won't receive a call notification if you manually set your status to do not disturb. So in the beginning, when we clicked on those settings tab, not sure if you saw a couple of those statuses. One of them was do not disturb. So if you went in there and perhaps you're working on a project and you really don't want to be disturbed, if you have it set to do not disturb, when somebody calls, you won't receive this pop-up. So when somebody calls, you do a couple things. You can accept, answer the call, or you can decline, and that'll route the caller to your voicemail, or it'll disconnect the caller depending on those settings that we talked about earlier, right? So what happens when I'm on a call? Where does this call go? What happens if I don't answer the call? Where does that call go? So depending on those settings that we talked about earlier, will determine how this call gets routed. But this is what it will look like when a call comes in. It'll also say for. If you see that for section, it's just going to show you who the caller is trying to reach. So remember I mentioned that you could be set up as a delegate. So maybe that caller's actually not calling me. They're calling Serena, but Serena had me set up as one of her delegates. So I can see who that caller is actually calling, trying to get hold of, I should say. Let's see, hold and accept. Oh, so if you're currently on a call, you're on the call, you've picked up the phone, you're also going to see a bunch of options while you're on this call. So there's a couple things that you can do while you're on a call. You could put somebody on hold at any time. You could add another caller as well. So I could place a call on hold if I want, or I could add up to 3 people. So anything more than 3 people, Zoom will actually put you into a Zoom meeting, but you can have up to 3 people on a call. I could transfer a call right from here, right? So I could transfer a call to another number. I could record this call just like a Zoom meeting. The minute I start recording a call, it's going to notify the folks on the call that it's being recorded. I could turn this call into a meeting. Hey, I wanted to show you this. Do you mind if we jump into a quick Zoom meeting? Right? And then under more, you're going to see things like park, which will place the call on hold for another caller to pick it up, as well as invite to a meeting and minimize. I can shrink the size of my calls right from here. Any questions about what happens when you're on a active call? Awesome. And again, pretty self-explanatory. It's a matter of just getting used to the buttons. But I think Zoom does a really good job describing what they do. So I'm sure once you're in here and you start using it, questions will come up. This is just kind of a detailed view of adding a third caller that I was talking about. So it's really that easy. You would just click add call. And I don't know if I have another pop-up. Yes, I do. So you would click add call, that button, add call, and then you would just use the keypad to either enter the name or the number or who you want to add to that call. And this is an example of what it would look like, right? So I've got that first caller on hold, and now I'm calling Marie. And then once Marie answers, I can go ahead and add that caller. Oh, I have a picture here of what it would look like. So I can go ahead and merge the call. That will be the next selection that will pop up. And then I also mentioned, this is just kind of a detailed view of third way calling. I feel like it's been forever since I've done third way calling, but it's super cool. You'll see my name as well as the callers that are in my call as well. Transfer, super easy. It's those little phones, back-to-back phones. It'll say transfer right underneath it. So you can transfer while you're on an active call as well. And this is what it looks like when you begin that transfer process, right? You again just dial directly from the keypad who you want to transfer it to or enter their name here. And then you can choose how you want the warm transfer as well, which is great, right? So if I want to speak to the person before transferring, that's what we call a warm transfer. If I want to just go ahead and blind transfer without speaking to that other person, just transfer, it sends. Or if I want to transfer directly to that person's voicemail, I can do that as well. Perhaps I know they're out of the office or away for lunch. I can just go ahead and transfer them to voicemail. And this is an example of a warm transfer. So again, I can talk to that person I'm transferring to, and then I can complete or cancel my transfer at any time. Says here the caller will remain on hold while you speak to the other person, right? And then I can hit just complete or cancel after that. And this is what it looks like. If you hit complete transfer, you'll see a pop-up at the top right where it will tell you that that transfer has been successful. I remember back in the day, we'd like a transfer a call and then just kind of cross your fingers that it went through. This, you actually get a notification now letting you know that it's been a successful transfer. I talked about blocking a caller, right? So this example here shows me under my history tab, calls that have come in, right? So here's this call from 1530. Not sure who this call is, or maybe it's, I don't want to receive that call again. Just by clicking those three little dots, you're going to see block caller. And I can actually identify it too if I want. I can say, you know what, I'm blocking this caller because it's a spam call, or, there may be other reasons why I'm blocking this call. But just know that you have the ability to block calls. All right, so I know I covered a lot on the desktop app, also known as the desktop client. Before I jump into the mobile app, I just wanted to take a pause and see if anybody has any questions. Excellent. Yes, this I was just reading the chat, and Serena mentioned that a recorded session is available and it's on that website. I've seen it. Paul has done a fantastic job in that recording. So yeah, we have a ton of resources available for you after this. All right, so the mobile app. I feel like there's not a ton to talk about when it comes to the mobile app, because I feel like we all have the mobile phones attached to us at the hip. But just know that Zoom has a mobile app as well, which is awesome. So you can either go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the Zoom mobile app. Again, you're going to use those single sign-on credentials to log in. Those are your UCLA login credentials when you sign in. Everything that we just talked about in the Zoom desktop client, you're going to find in the mobile app. So just think of that client. We just basically kind of shrunk it down, put it into the mobile app for you. We want to just, make sure there was some consistency here with the way you navigate on the mobile app. But just be aware, we had to kind of move a couple things around. So as an example, when we first logged into the Zoom desktop client, across the top, that's where you saw your meetings and the phone app. Well, now it's at the bottom of your mobile app, right? So it's down at the bottom here. You'll find that phone app logo. Just click on that, and that's how you can get to your dial pad, your keypad, your phone button. Let's see what else. Filters. So remember we talked about the history and voicemails. Well, now it's the little drop down under all history. You'll see it up there. There'll be a drop down there. Call options still under those three little dots that I showed you on the Zoom desktop client next to a person's name, right? So the person that called, I also have additional number call options here as well. Voicemail, right? So here's that history, voicemail, lines, SMS that we found on the desktop client that was on the left. Now it's displayed here under voicemail. Again, you can listen to the voicemail right from here or call right from here. I can delete it, or I could forward it off if I needed to as well. Lines, if you're part of a shared line group, this is where you would see the group that you're part of. And to place a call looks kind of just like your dial pad that you have on your phone, right? So a lot of those same options. I was talking earlier about, did I mention caller ID, that you can set your caller ID? There's a defaulted caller ID here, that's because you can set that in your settings. But just know that caller ID, if you wanted it to be your main phone number as your caller ID, or if you wanted it to be your direct phone number as your caller ID, there's a little drop down right next to it. You could switch that on the fly if you'd like. So if you wanted to change that caller ID on the fly, you could, to be either your direct line or your main company line if you wanted to. And that's all I had for mobile app. Like I said, it's fairly straightforward. Those of you that use your mobile app all day, your phone, it's very similar. We do have a ton of resources, as I mentioned, support.zoom.us. Right from here, you can get to the Zoom Learning Center. There's all kinds of great videos and courses that you could take. So if you wanted to learn a little bit more, you could go to our Learning Center. There's getting started guides here. There's also, I mentioned the video tutorials, and there's also a searchable knowledge base. So you see that big search bar when you go to support.zoom.us. You can just type in whatever question you have, and it'll pull up a ton of resources for you right from the support center. Here's that Learning Center. So once you click on Learning Center, or if you just want to go to learning.zoom.us, this is where you can go in. Not only do we have training videos, pre-recorded training sessions, but you can also be part of live training sessions as well. And there's no additional cost. So this is all available to you. All right, so how are we doing on time? Not bad. Any questions for the team?
Janice, do you mind if I steal the ball and share our Bruin Voice website? Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
I loved your website, by the way. I just visited here. Great job.
Thank you so much. So what Janice just showed you is going to be a great wealth of knowledge when you want to go a little bit deeper and learn some tips and tricks on how to really maximize the capabilities of Zoom phone features. But I also want to direct your attention to our Bruin Voice website that is housed within UCLA's portal. And I have a link in the chat that directs you to asynchronous training. That's basically the training on demand of previously recorded sessions. You don't need to watch the videos that are available here end to end. What you can do is you could specifically scroll to a topic that you're looking for. So for example, if you want to view how to set up a voicemail greeting, you can click on this button and it will take you to the mark in that video so that you specifically go there. So just wanted to share a little bit about the hot links. And then under the Zoom-led training, there is a Learn at Lunch recording. It is from the training that was done last week. And so that's available to you so that you can learn a little bit more about how UCLA is approaching this migration to Zoom phone. Additionally, under training resources at the top, you can click on reference materials, and it's just another way to receive information. If you prefer to see a step-by-step guide, this is for you because we have 16 quick reference guides on a variety of different topics under, a few different categories. So I know, Karina, you had asked about shared lines and call queues. There's a specific document that takes you through how to manage those types of features or functionalities. And then last but not least, I do also want to send your attention to our FAQs. So because we've gone through 6 previous waves, we have definitely gotten a lot of questions to date. And so we try to address a lot of those in our FAQs. So feel free to click on that to just peruse additional information that is relevant for your go live. And with that, would love to just open it up to any questions that this group has. All right. Well, and if you don't have any questions, you get a 17-minute time rebate, but I will stick around for a couple minutes just to see if anybody thinks of anything or wants to ask anything. But also, as an FYI, there is a Q&A session tomorrow. So if you want to join that at 11 a.m., it's just an open forum to answer any questions that might come up after today's session and before go live. And then also at go live, we will have a week of hypercare support. So just stay tuned to the go live email that will be sent out on Monday around 8 a.m. There will be a checklist of items to get you set up with Zoom Phone. And then there will also be the 5 different mechanisms you can take advantage of to receive support Hypercare Week. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.